Okay, hello and welcome to today, which is March 5th, 2025, our Continuum of Care board meeting. Today we're going to get started with our land acknowledgement and theory of change. And I hope everybody's gotten outside in the sunlight too. It's really beautiful out there. So if I could hand it over to Victor to do the land acknowledgement, please.
Hi everyone, this is Victor Lu. For this work context, I use he, him, his pronouns. The King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish people, especially the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions, and is the first step in honoring the land that we today sit on and their people.
Thank you, Victor. I appreciate that. I believe we have Jaja reading the theory of change. Jaja Floyd.
I'm Jaja Floyd. And if we create a homeless response system that centers the voices of people with lived experience of homelessness, then we can focus on responding to needs and eliminating inequities to end homelessness.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I also wanted to ground us in a song today. I know that's usually a practice we do at our system performance committee, but I appreciate the grace, if I may. This is a song by Woody Guthrie, and it's called This Land Is Your Land. It goes, this land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And I think it's important to remember that that me is you, me, and everybody, right? And I just wanted to say those words today. So thank you to Woody Guthrie for that classic song. And anybody who wasn't singing it in their head, I challenge you. Anyway, thank you for that time and grace today. So we're going to be moving into the approval of our last meeting's minutes, which was February 2025. And I'm hoping everyone got a chance to read those minutes. And if so, if you could entertain a motion to approve the February 2025 COC board meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve. This is Amy Thomas, board minutes from last meeting.
Amaya Lenore, I will second that.
Great, thank you. So we had Amy Thomas with the motion and Amaya Lenore on the second. And is there any discussion surrounding these minutes? Any edits? No? Great. Let's move into a quick voice vote for this one. And we'll just have you come off mute, say aye, or you can raise your hand if needed. And this is to approve the February 2025 COC board meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we have
Aye.
quorum?
Aye.
Will we do a roll call now?
We were going to do a no in a second. And then, so with a voice vote, it typically goes yays, and then the nays would have, we have the chance for abstention. And if we need to divide it, I think is what it's called, then we would just call for a divide, and that's when we would do a roll call. We could do a roll call if people prefer, but generally the meeting minutes, unless we have edits to discuss, are pretty.
I believe the question was about whether before voting on the minutes.
Oh, shoot, my guys, yes.
The meeting.
Of course, my apologies. Thank you, Martha and Elizabeth, for bringing that point of order. Why don't we move into roll call? Catherine, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sam texted me, so she is here. Tamara Bauman.
Here.
Jaja Floyd.
Here.
Bella Irons.
Here.
Amaya Lenore.
Here.
Elizabeth Mopen. Here. Dorsal Plants. Ruby Romero.
President.
Martha Sassarossi.
Present.
Christina Sawicki. I'll look for a text from Christina. Victor Liu,
Present.
Amy Thomas,
Present.
TT White. Ten members present and 3 absent at this time.
Okay, great. I believe Dorsal did notify us that he might be running a few behind, so we'll keep everyone updated once they arrive, and as board members come into the meeting, we will notify that to the record. Okay, thank you so much for reminding me to do the roll call. Now, if we already have the motion on the table, right? So we can go into the voice vote of the approval of the minutes, if that's how this process works. I'm sorry if that's not quite the right Robert's rules there. But if there's no opposition, we're going to move back to the approval of the February 2025 board meeting minutes from the COC board. And we had the motion made by Amy Thomas and it was seconded by Amaya. And now all those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Not hearing any. Sounds like to me the ayes have it. So thank you. We have approved those board meeting minutes. And the next section is going to be public comment. If there's anyone present and wanting to give public comment to the COC board, now is your chance. We just ask you raise your hand. You can also submit. Bella, yes?
I wanted to make sure that a couple of the agenda items that were voted in our February monthly SPC meeting were brought to the forefront, and that this would be the time to do it possibly.
Right, I see that note there, and I was just waiting for my co-chair to respond to the message that I did notify you of, and we can add it to the end if needed. And I appreciate you flagging that, because we did actually, in the System Performance Committee, vote in the subcommittee for the point in time count, I believe is what you're speaking of. And so I just want to make sure that I get some feedback from my co-chair. I don't want to be making a unilateral decision or anything like that. So
Thank you.
yeah, I've reached out, and hopefully he'll get back to me as soon as he's on the meeting. So thank you. Yeah, then that's a important thing that we want to make sure we stand up soon. So thank you. Now moving into the public comment portion, if there's anyone present here, just go ahead and raise your hand. We can elevate you and hear from you. And then also you have the chance to send it to the coc.questions@kcrha.org.
We do have one hand up, and Michelle Eastman, you should be able to come off of mute now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, my name is Michelle Eastman. I am the Director of Communications for the Lived Experience Coalition, and I would like to make a few comments, requests today. The first is to return CEO updates and attendance to monthly COC meetings. We recognize that I recognize that CEO Kinnison is busy, but would like to encourage her to at least attend or at least send a video of herself or a representative to speak on her behalf when she cannot attend. This would demonstrate the value of the COC board and lived experience. Voices. And then two, to increase the transparency and equity of COC meetings and convenings by hosting all convenings and meetings in person with an option for virtual attendance. Using Zoom for the hybrid option for ease of access over Microsoft Teams, moving all hybrid meetings and convenings from webinar format to Zoom, so participants can see, or to standard Zoom, so participants can see and connect with each other, much like they would in person. And then be holding quarterly meetings or quarterly convenings to increase access to information and ensuring COC board involvement in the planning of convenings. Additionally, I would like to request that the stand-up of a seating committee to consolidate process and fill all seats on the COC board and its working subcommittees, namely the System Performance Committee, Coordinated Entry, and the Point in Time Count, as well as standing up a system redesign committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Michelle. Those are some really great suggestions. We appreciate you coming in and speaking with us today. Is there any other hands, Kelsey or Catherine?
Anyone over here? There's one in the room.
All right. Oh, yes, of course. The in-person statement. I like that. All right, go ahead. In the room.
Do I just speak?
You can come, you.
Hi,
come up to the
everyone.
table if
My
you want.
name is, oh, I guess.
Yeah, it might be better so that everybody can hear, make sure to hear you.
Oh, is that Marvin?
Hello,
That's
my
familiar.
name is Marvin Futurell. I am a former board member and co-chair of the King County Continuum of Care. I also serve the community of lived experience by working with the Lived Experience Coalition. I'm the director of policy and strategy for that group. And there are a few things I would like to weigh in on. I think they all touch your agenda. If they don't, just let me know. One is the continuum of care in this iteration's into its 5th or 6th year. We're clearly at a time where standing up all of the subcommittees to do the work and be reporting to the board should be established. You know, if they're on their way, great. If they're not, it's up to the board members to be diligent about raising what's not there or working for you. I have always talked about equity. I'm going to stick to the transparency and clarity side, which is the work of the board should always be public facing. Be it committee, work group, be it the board itself and its convenience. The webinars do not give an adequate platform for community interaction or engagement or even knowledge that who's here. I offer that another platform or Zoom or some other platform be used to help build community. And then last, I echo the comments that were made before around filling the empty seats on the boards. Subcommittees and on the board can't be effective if they don't have their full capacity. So that process is now a little over a year old. And the previous one where folks actually filled out a bunch of applications for seats was nothing ever moved forward with that. So I just bring it back to the board. There are a lot of people in the Continuum of Care membership that want to take part but are unsure of what the process is. Thanks. I probably.
Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate those comments. And I believe that we just did have the convening in January where we were actually able to move those into the charter. So I think that's in the works and on the move, just for the record. And I also, for the record, the Dorsal's here now. So I just wanted to reflect that he's present.
Here's another.
And I'm just, could you put it in the Q&A? My Q&A was, did the board help plan the last convening?
No, it was.
No, I don't need an answer. It was my question. Because I'm just because I'm in the room, I don't get to necessarily get answers others would.
Okay. And did we get that question reflected in the meeting minutes there? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And is there any other in the room comments or online?
I just want to ditto Marvin about filling the board seats.
All right.
And my name's Jaja Floyd, I'm sorry. I forgot to say that.
Any,
Ruby, will you just do a reminder that when people speak, to just say their name for the
Right.
card captioner?
Yes, definitely. I thank you for that reminder for myself as well to slow down and speak clearly and identify who is speaking for the cart captioner to correctly identify individuals for the card captioning. Perfect timing. If there's nobody else for the public comment, I believe we can go ahead and close that portion. Again, feel free to always enter it into the Q&A. And so we're going to leave that on the coc.questions@kcrha.org as well. You can also email the questions or any comments that you have there. I'm going to hand it over to Dorsal for his section of the agenda right now. The standing up of the convening work group. Perfect timing. Hey, Dorsal.
Hi, thank you. I apologize to the board, KCRHA staff, and the public for being late. I couldn't avoid it, unfortunately. I do want to add that Kelsey put in the chat as well that as of right now, the COC board is full. We are able to go up to a higher number of people, but as of right now, like there is not a requirement to fill empty seats currently. Just throwing that piece out there. So yeah, we are at a wonderful stage where we, I hope everyone had an opportunity to review the document and the agenda, but we are hoping to stand up a work group to begin planning our convenings. There is a bit of a time-sensitive nature to this. The next convening will be in May, which it's insane to think about, but it's basically May already. It's already March 2025. How does time keep moving faster, not slower? So a motion would be in order if someone was interested in making a motion to approve the COC convening work group.
I would move, this is Elizabeth Lopin, and I move that we approve the creation of a continuum of care convening work group.
I'll
Is-
second that motion, Dorsal. My name's Jaja Floyd.
I heard Jaja with a second and Tamara with a third. It's always good to have a third, so we'll take that in. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think I would just offer that we are working towards making this process more seamless for people that are applying to committees and work groups, and just really moving towards a more clear direction on that. And I believe that we should be seeing that here pretty soon. So I just wanted to offer that. This is Ruby Romero, by the way. Thank you. Oh, and I see Bella's hand.
I appreciate knowing that you're trying to streamline processes for getting subcommittees, positions. We did move forward with a skills assessment for the SPC, and I think that it would be important to share that with any efforts that the KCRHA is making, so that across the board we have some kind of baseline for what kind of skills assessment, which we voted to also bring in wellness and well-being, so that it is a very comprehensive assessment. It is not just based off of business practices, but it is also based off of, human potential and what people bring to the table that is very unique. So if there's somebody that is coordinating the efforts for bringing in new applications for subcommittees, I would love to be able to share that. I'm sure Marvin and Daniel would love to as well.
And I would love to see it too. I'd also be curious, even potentially, to try it out on just us as a group that are already here, just to kind of see what shakes out. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the vote. Catherine, if you would not mind doing a roll call vote, please.
I will. Dr. Sam,
Approve.
Tamara Bauman,
Approve.
Zsa Floyd,
Approve.
Bella Irons,
Sorry, approve.
Amaya Lenore,
Approve.
Elizabeth Moken,
Approve.
Dorsal Plants,
Approve.
Ruby Romero,
Approve.
who did I miss? Oh, sorry, Martha Sasarosi,
Approve.
Christina Sawicki, Victor Liu,
Approve.
Amy Thomas,
Approve.
we have 11 yays and 2 absent. Motion passes.
A note, Christina is in the attendees.
Okay. I didn't receive a text from her, but I will check again. I don't see, but I'll reach out to Christina. Ursula?
Awesome. Thank you. I just really want to take a second and take a pause and see if there is any need for a motion to amend or adjust our agenda for this meeting.
Yes, Bella?
Bella.
Yes, I would. The Systems Performance Committee in February voted in a point in time count subcommittee to be raised and reviewed to look to vote on and move forward.
And so would you like to make a motion to add to the end of our agenda a vote by the COC board to losing my Robert's Rules of Order words, adopt that?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Dorsal.
Is there a second for that motion?
I second.
Great, there's Zsa. Perfect.
My name is Zsa Floyd. Always forget to say my name first.
Ruby, did you have a question or?
Yeah, just a clarifying and a little bit of a I think this might be my fault that it wasn't on the agenda, and so I just wanted to apologize to the board. We don't generally like to bring something that we're not reviewing beforehand, but this is something that we did discuss during our retreat, I believe, and so just flagging that usually we like to see a little bit more time on these, but this is going to be a pretty quick and hopefully Bella can offer some scope of work once we get to that portion of the agenda. But that's my 2 cents, and thank you for making the time on the agenda today.
Thank you, Ruby. We've got a motion on the floor. I'm going to do something and hope that it works just in the interest of time, but I'd like to actually just call for a voice vote. So if you are voting yes for the motion to adjust the agenda, we'll still talk about it when we get there, but adjusting the agenda, if you could come off mute and say yay or yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, if you would like to vote against the motion, if you could come off mute and say no or nay. If you'd like to abstain from the motion, if you could come off of mute and say abstain or not voting.
Amaya Lenore, I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Amaya. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the yays have it. And so we'll adjust the agenda and we'll hear from Bella at the end of the meeting. And I'll turn it back over to Ruby for what we're doing next.
Thank you. Yes, and it looks like, and thank you for that vote today, you guys, and the grace there. Dorsal, thanks for handling the standing up the convening work group. I'm excited to see that be a thing. Next, we have the membership board and committee updates. We're going to hear from the System Performance Committee, Coordinated Entry, Cross-Cutting Policy Work Group, and the Youth Action Board, or YAB as we call them. And just offering, oh, I didn't realize I'm not on my video, apologize. Just offering that we are working again to streamline a lot of these systems that we're doing with the committees and trying to make it a more effective process for updates. So just keep an eye out for those coming here soon. But we'll go ahead and dive right into the System Performance Committee. I believe that's going to be Bella handling that update and the champion of the committee updates. Go ahead, Bella.
Hi, this is Bella Irons. I apologize that I keep forgetting to say my name to begin with, one of the co-chairs for the Systems Performance Committee. And we have a lot of updates. In fact, I sent out our first weekly planning meeting update yesterday via email to our membership. We're bullet pointing, at least right now, that's the format, what Marvin and Daniel and I discuss, and or we invite the SPC members to contact us and let us give you a link to be able to participate. But every week moving forward, I'm very dedicated to getting communications up and going in the SPC, regular, transparent communications. And so we started that yesterday. We're also working on a communications plan for the SPC, which right now we've figured out has email schedule for regular updates to both the SPC membership as well as the COC board and members. I am working with KCRHA to figure out regular website updates and designating a page for all relevant information to be shared with, so that we will be able to share that link more readily with people, and they will be able to access a place online where they can look for current information, who to contact, and everything that we're working on, as well as looking into KCRHA's monthly e-newsletter or newsletters, and being able to update, what a Systems Performance Committee is working on through there as well. The other item Marvin and I discussed is that we both felt that it was important to adhere to the Open Public Comments Act, and therefore making sure that we are uploading our agenda and any relevant items or attachments to at least this one KCRHA SPC webpage. And again, informing the SPC members at least 7 days before, so that people have information readily accessible for at least a week prior to meetings, and being able for the public to access such. And one of the other items that we shared this week was that I was going to bring up the PIT subcommittee. So thank you for adding that to the agenda. But we also stood up last month in our monthly meeting that we have a very rare opportunity to have comments to HUD. And we stood up a work group to be able to do this. And we're going to be, sending out a lot more information. We also have a survey that's being sent out. But opening these communication channels and making sure that people understand where to be able to access information, who to be able to ask about how to become involved. The HUD comment work group has a very, very short timeline. So we do want to engage interested persons in our COC membership, even outside of it, to be able to gain as much of a diverse understanding of their interactions with HUD, HMIS. We're looking at KCRHA staff. We're looking at the greater, Puget Sound area and all of our partners as well. Anybody that people feel might be interested in providing comments to HUD. This is a very rare opportunity. So we want to make sure that people are aware, how do they become involved? Because this will have to have a very, very short turnaround, just like the convening committee. So that's where we are. That's all for now. I'm sure there's a lot more coming.
That's great. It sounds like you guys are definitely busy over there, and I love to see it. I'm really happy to see both you and Marvin really step into that position and take charge. I'm also excited to hopefully be in conversation about, how the COC board can also incorporate some of your excellent moves there on the comms, communications portion, and just really excited to see that trailblaze happening. So thank you, Bella, for that really good. I hope that wasn't all in one breath, though. I think you did a good job. So we're going to move into the coordinated entry updates. If there's a board member present that wants to give the coordinated entry update, or if staff is here to do so.
Kelsey, will you please do that?
Yep, I can do that. I'm just gonna get
Thank
my
you.
notes up in front of me really quickly so that I can do a thorough update. So the last coordinated entry committee meeting was really identifying goals and priorities for this coming year. There will be work that is being focused on developing coordinated entry specific data dashboards. There are prior dashboards that have shown kind of how coordinated entry system is working and functioning. So wanting to do a review and update of those dashboards. From there, the committee is wanting to look at prioritization and how current prioritization is working and potential updates to prioritization schema for access to housing resources. The other kind of main point that will be focused on for the year is looking at access and engagement work. So how are folks experiencing homelessness able to access and engage with our coordinated entry system? So those will be kind of the three main focuses for the coming year, with some development around a potential pilot and kind of system entry and system access through coordinated entry. So that is what we have slotted for 2025.
Awesome. And just quickly, I want to confirm, Bella, is the next system performance committee meeting going to be on the 19th of March from 2 to 4, correct? Yes. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I apologize for not noting that earlier.
No worries. No, we're working on the structure. We're figuring out our kinks. That's good. So I just wanted to make sure we did have that. And then I think the coordinated entry next meeting is when, Kelsey?
The next coordinated entry meeting is on April 24th. Nope, we're in March. It's March, isn't it? March 27th.
Great. Okay, so it's the last Thursday usually. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm just making sure I have those in my notes. The next is going to be the cross-cutting policy work group. And so we're kind of moving up our meeting frequency to twice a month right now. We did take a look at the rapid rehousing standards, and that's what I believe we're hearing about from Kelsey today, a little bit more of an in-depth explanation to what that is and why they made the decision to look at our rapid rehousing standards. And so the group got to meet with some of our providers that provide rapid rehousing, and we got to hear a lot of their feedback about how this new system might work, and got to hear some questions and really dive into that portion of the work that I never really had a chance to fully grasp. So that was really an interesting meeting to hear from everyone and learn a lot. And and Kelsey's always amazing when she's doing the work on getting people's ideas incorporated into the document. So I really appreciate Kelsey's help on that and facilitation there. The next meeting that we're having, I believe, is going to be on the 10th. And this is when we're going to really start diving into the written standards and just really starting to, or we've been looking at them, but this is when we're actually starting the work on the revisions, updates, and making sure that everything is included that needs to be included and not over include anything. As you might know, I'm pretty infamous for wanting to give too much information. So it's good to have other people on the work group with me to kind of bring that in. And I wanted to say we do have a couple new members potentially. We're working on those communications right now. So look forward to hopefully bringing some new faces into the mix there. And that's the update right now. We're usually meeting on Mondays, and we were able to increase our frequency. So that's exciting. I don't believe I'm forgetting anything. Catherine, am I forgetting anything? No? Okay. Then I'm going to hand it over to the YAB for their update. Unless there was any questions. I don't think so.
Sure, I can get started here. Hello, everyone. Trayvon Fields, and I'm going to be bringing you the YAB update, or the first half, anyway. Yeah, so a couple things. The YAB has new members. So right now, the board sits at 12 individuals. So there's 12 YAB members, which is great. So right now, we're really focusing on, just getting those members up to speed, and getting them confident in what the YAB is currently working on, which we'll be talking about later in this update. Yeah, super excited to have a full YAB. It's been great. The YAB has also been working on their convening. Right now, like out of that, the YAB is looking at different venues in King County and taking into account, bus lines and how easy, young people can travel to the location the YAB chooses. So that's really where we're at right now with the convening, as well as working to connect with other youth action boards. That's something the YAB has really been heading and spearheading, and it's been great to see the communication between both groups of young people. So that's been fun to see that, and really excited to have an opportunity to connect with different YABs in Washington. So that's really, really focused on the convening, because our theme this year for the convening, which is happening in July, is YHDP. So it'd be great to have different YABs there. Yeah, super excited about the convening. So yeah, that was new members, YAB convening. We also have the YAB is, preparing for a public meeting. So the YAB is excited and want to stay true to themselves and their lens of being youth and young adult centered focus. They want to use that when planning the meetings and facilitating the meetings, and they're taking time to keep that take that into consideration, that young adults are the focused or the focus. So that's what they're taking into consideration and planning for their first public meeting. So yeah, we're really excited about that, and we will definitely, we're thinking March 27th. So we're wanting to make sure that all YAB members can be there for that meeting. Yeah, and then lastly, we have Built for Zero. The YAB is working on, which is super exciting. And there will be a presentation on Built for Zero during the public meeting, so you guys can save your questions for that. But yeah, that's something the YAB is working on. It's going, an opportunity for the YAB to lead, and be a stakeholder in the fight to end youth and young adult homelessness. So that's what Built for Zero is about. And there will be a presentation on that during the YAB's first public meeting. And yeah, we will get that all out to you all. Yeah, Maya, I don't know if Maya, is there anything that you want to add?
I don't think there was very much. I am pretty excited for our convening, though. We were talking about what we want to put on our agenda for the convening. And there's just some really exciting panels and interviews we would love to be able to do. Yeah, I don't want to reveal too much, but I am pretty excited about that. And like Trey said, we are currently onboarding some new members, so we kind of have like pretty full YAB right now of 12 people. Yeah, and I'm excited to get to know everyone, especially in youth and young adults. Homeless sector. I want to see what they're passionate about and what their calling is. That's basically how all our projects on the app became projects, like our podcast and our newsletters, just the passion in the people that are on the YAB. So I'm really, people and see what they love to do.
Great. I think we might have lost her there, but if she has any more updates when she gets back, she can always give those. Or if I appreciate all of those great there's great movement going on. I love it. I love to see it. I just wanted to also uplift that there is going to be a governing board meeting coming up this month as well. And so that's on the 20th, I believe. Should be a good one. Anyway, so this next section, and thank you for those updates. We're making good time today. We've got about 10 minutes to get started early on the discussion with Kelsey about the rapid rehousing standards review. And I didn't thank you for that note there, Dorsal. So, well, I mentioned it kind of in passing earlier, but we are working on consolidating how we do our reports as well as how we ask people to join the committees and things like that. So we're going to be having this new format come out in email to the co-chairs of the committees or their delegate to give the updates in a more bullet point, kind of how we really appreciate how Bella has been giving her updates. And so we wanted to kind of mirror that and support a more transparent and yeah, good information. We need to make sure it's clear. So thank you so much for that. And like I said, keep an eye out for it. It won't be too complicated. We're not going to be too rigorous on it, but I do want to have some sort of like structure on it. And the next section on our agenda is going to be, again, Kelsey giving us the overview of the rapid rehousing standards. And this is important to pay attention to because we're not voting on it today, but we will be voting on it next meeting. And I know there's some board members that have really close connections with rapid rehousing. And so I just want to make sure that we are, and I see a hand in the room there. Sorry, Catherine, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that we have one more update, the membership update.
Great.
I believe
sorry.
either you or Dorsal.
The membership update.
On the board member.
Oh, yes. Dorsal, do you want to handle that section or?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. I'm old, so you gotta help jog the memory. So we did want to provide a brief update. So we have TT White, who has been a board member in good standing. We have attempted multiple ways of communicating and reaching out to her. Unfortunately, she has not been present for, I believe we're up to the fourth meeting. With no contact and having missed 4 meetings in a row, we're going to go ahead and move forward with removing TT from the board, which is standard, is outlined in the bylaws of our organization. But Ruby and I are committed to transparency, and so we wanted to kind of bring that here and tell you all, and that way you had an opportunity to ask questions or raise any concerns that you had very briefly. But just wanted to provide that brief update here about our COC board.
Yeah, and if anyone has contact with her, that would be great to know that she's okay. So hopefully we can hear about that. But she's been a good board member while she was with us. So we want to say thank you to TT and just thank you to the other board members that are present here today. Yes, thank you for that reminder. Tamara, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and I say this because out of love for my fellow Pacific Islander, my love for my fellow sister in arms. I love her. I love you if you're listening. I hope that she's okay. And I believe the power of relationships is what moves systems. I believe the power of relationships are what we need to be self-sustaining. And I'm feeling a little bit emotional because I have a very special relationship with her. And so I love you, TT, wherever you are. And let's keep rocking this together. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in this capacity, but know that I love you. You're awesome. And I got your back for life.
And thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to, sound any, anyway, so we're here today to do the work, and we're going to direct back to the agenda here. Take her away, Kelsey. I kind of already introduced it, so I'll let you do the rest.
Thank you. I am just gonna pull up, where is my correct screen? So hi everyone, Kelsey Beckmeyer, she, her pronouns. I am the Continuum of Care Manager with KCRHA. And we are doing a kind of review and overview of the rapid rehousing standards. As Ruby indicated, we will be bringing these standards to be called for a vote by the COC board in April to be implemented, and wanted to take the opportunity today to kind of review what the purpose of those standards are, and what the proposed updates will be. So first, for anyone who may be unaware, what is rapid rehousing? So rapid rehousing is an intervention designed to help households quickly exit homelessness and return or enter into permanent housing. Rapid rehousing enrollment has no preconditions, such as employment, income, absence of a criminal record, or sobriety. The only eligibility criteria for rapid rehousing is experience of literal homelessness as defined by HUD. The program provides tenant-based rental assistance for up to 24 months, depending upon household need, along with supportive services that are tailored to each unique household. So while there may be 24 months possible, every household may not need that entire time of support. That's really to be determined by the program offering the support and that household. The overall goals are to really help folks obtain housing quickly, increase self-sufficiency, and remain in housing. Written standards. So a little bit about why we have written standards. So KCRHA right now is updating the written standards that were previously developed and we have been using since KCRHA kind of became the holder of those since 2022. They were previously developed by All Home with input from King County, City of Seattle, and Building Changes. And we're making updates right now to better align with HUD guidelines. There was an audit in 2023 from HUD, and one of the pieces that they looked at were the rapid rehousing standards. And we're making revisions based on input from that monitoring. The standards are what providers refer to when they are developing, managing, operating a rapid rehousing program. And they are also what are referred to in the contracts that are held between KCRHA and our funded providers. So they really are the guidebook for standards and for best practices and promising practices on how to operate rapid rehousing in our continuum. As a bit of a overview, at least of the review, the currently drafted standards that were sent out to the board and are currently posted online have been reviewed by our local HUD field office, by KCRHA's prior technical assistance partner, CSH. We've also sent them to King County and the City of Seattle for review. And as part of the continuum of care, rapid rehousing is a continuum of care program. These standards then need to be approved by the COC board. A little bit of an overview. So this is kind of what you'll see within the standards, the large kind of categories. We outline how to access rapid rehousing in King County, that there's a requirement to use coordinated entry, as well as a parallel system for survivors of gender-based violence. We detail the eligibility criteria, the definitions of literal homelessness, as well as documentation requirements to verify literal homelessness. There is a more meaty section around the core components of rapid rehousing, which include housing identification, financial assistance that is provided, supportive services and those expectations, and then outlining requirements of 90-day reassessments. Included in the standards are policy requirements that are outlined, and we provide some either templated language or expectations related to rent subsidy calculation, emergency transfers that's in alignment with the Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act, or VAWA, program termination policies, no contact procedures, and then a grievance policy. We also include at the end just overall, so folks are aware who are operating rapid rehousing, what performance standards that we have in our system. So we include what anticipated exit rates to permanent housing should be, as well as the return rate to homelessness, what the standards are for our system. A timeline to share with you all around how this work has been happening, that some of you actually may have been a part of. So the review of this really began back in January of 2022. So from January to March was a kind of mapping exercise to look at all of the different fund sources that go into rapid rehousing in King County, what the current program guidelines were at that time, and then detailing what could be changed and by whom, knowing that there are things that are dictated outside of either the COC, KCRHA, or other local funders. So there are things that are mandated by either the state, the federal government. So really looking at what part of the standards do we have kind of leeway in updating or shifting. There were then listening sessions that were held throughout late 2022 and through 2023. These were with both providers and individuals with lived and living experience to gather feedback. From the review, the listening sessions, there was early draft development that was done in late 2023 through early 2024. That first draft was completed and then sent out and posted for feedback, so that we could incorporate kind of an additional review to say, hey, we heard you, this is how we interpreted it. What do you think now? We also worked on developing an updated tool for the rent and income calculator. So this was created based on a model from Los Angeles using kind of local information and updates. And then we have been doing final reviews of this through late 24 through now. So we've had kind of internal reviews at KCRHA from staff. This was also when it was sent out to King County and City of Seattle, and then looked at with the cross-cutting policy work group. And we are here now doing a presentation to you all in hopes for a kind of final adoption in April. Key changes that you will see in the document, which I believe I highlighted in green in the document that I sent. So we are updating to allow up to the full 24 months of assistance. This is kind of the national standard and what HUD allows in terms of rapid rehousing supports. The previous model in the rapid rehousing standards limited rapid rehousing support to 3 to 6 months and up to 1 year. The decision to expand this was based on a number of factors. One was feedback from HUD that they want to see that we allow up to 24 months of assistance. Two, economic factors, looking at the, you know, income and rental costs in our area, and also looking at how rapid rehousing is operated in other larger metropolitan areas. Very few are limiting rapid rehousing to just, you know, 3 to 6 months or a year. So wanting to also kind of keep pace with what other similar areas are doing, knowing that the kind of initiation of rapid rehousing, you know, 10 years ago we're in a very different economic climate, and seeing that what was working previously is not necessarily a model that is always working. And this is not to say that everyone will need 24 months of assistance. This is that we want to broaden the ability for really the program and providers along with that household to make that decision. Another piece is that we're kind of explicitly calling in that individuals or households who are in transitional housing, in HUD's eyes, that is literal homelessness, and included in the definition of literal homelessness, and it will be included in that definition in our local guidelines as well. For documentation standards, we are detailing some clearer expectations around documentation. And this includes a more detailed checklist of documents that are required for rapid rehousing. We're also going to be providing a zip file of templates for documents. This is so providers can, one, check against their own current existing documentation if they need to update that, or ability to adopt documents that have kind of been reviewed as being eligible documentation for income documentation, literal homelessness documentation, housing stability plans. So wanting to just provide a little bit more detailed guidance and structure. So if we also have new programs, we kind of have some packaging that we can provide to new providers. Finally, the rent subsidy calculation is being updated. So there are changes in the subsidy model to align with going up to 24 months of assistance. We also have put in to the standards some written guidance around flexibility, where if a provider wants to deviate from the recommended policy subsidy structure, that the organization needs to present and have their own standard policy that is submitted and reviewed by KCRHA to ensure that it meets all of the HUD requirements. This was again based on feedback from HUD. As well as providers. So wanting to make sure that there is clear structure and the ability to be innovative and flexible, knowing that innovation in how we do programs and do work comes from the work that providers are doing on the ground and with households. A little bit of a review regarding feedback and actions that we've taken. So there was some questions around just literal homelessness verification and what is acceptable and not. So we developed templates for programs to use for verifications. These are based on documents from either the state or from HUD. Rent reasonableness, there was some questions from providers around when rent reasonableness is required. So we created a clear template and also kind of detailed in the standards requirements by fund sources. One fund source does not require rent reasonableness, so we called that out explicitly. And then there's some caveats with a local state funding source that we also included. There were also questions around 12-month leases. So we are maintaining 12-month leases as a standard and allowing exceptions where there are certain fund sources allow for leases less than 12 months. again, the rent subsidy model. This will be something that is kind of piloted and tested over the next year or so. There will be an open link for comments. So as folks are using the rent calculator, working with the updated standards, they can provide feedback around how things are going, and we can work to make some adaptations as we go. Again, that kind of leads to the exception requests and feedback. Currently, if there are need to serve someone over 12 months, or people have a question about whether a cost is eligible, they submit what's called either a hardship or exception request. And we are trying to minimize the number of times that needs to be done, so that there's a little bit more knowledge and empowerment within programs themselves to kind of make some of those decisions with guidance that we have written out. And again, we'll have the real-time input form. Our kind of next steps. One will be getting hopeful board approval come April. That's when we would do the formal launch of the standards. And kind of between now and then, KCRHA staff are working on a training for providers that would include updates on the standards, some clear guidance and training on the rent subsidy model and calculation, and then review of eligibility and required documentation. So those things would kind of come with the launch of the standards, so that providers have that support from KCRHA as they are navigating any changes. And that is what I have for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all and take any questions that you may have, because I did see a few things in the chat. Oh, those are not related. But Bella, I do see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you for this, Kelsey. While you were reviewing all of these, reviewing, and it just occurred to me that this HUD comment work group that the SPC, voted in, you probably have some amazing insights, and the people that worked on this probably have some amazing insights to provide comments. So if anybody's interested in being in that work group, I can see where we would love to be able to have some of that information extended to HUD. When people have done this level of work on something, is it benefiting us to have the questions answered or to have new data sets for it? And is it going to help HUD and other COCs across the country to, review work that you've already done? So I just, want to raise that back up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bella.
Elizabeth, I do have a comment. As we went over this, there was one area where I saw positive fallout from this, in that the 24 months period rather than the 12-month is helpful to some people who are not able to make that transition so quickly in 12 months from paying zero amount or $0 on their rent to paying the full rent. So there are some people who need that extra time. On the flip side, giving that extra time to them and the extended amount of payment in will limit the number of people we can get in. So we will have fewer people getting quickly into rapid rehousing. And that means that the people who are not getting in will be out there longer. So the rapidity is somewhat endangered by this shift. So it was kind of a balancing thing. And I don't want to say that it's all perfect. in everything, you gain something and you lose something. That was my takeaway from doing this work.
Yeah, and I very much appreciate that, Elizabeth. And that's something that, you know, as we implement this, we'll need to be doing some careful monitoring of program enrollments, of number of households who are served, because there are some things that we, one, can't know or fully predict right now. We can do some projections of what we think, but one thing that we're also looking at is making sure that all of the rapid rehousing programs that we have in our community are funded to serve the number of folks that they are contracted to serve. So there has also been work looking at the kind of portfolio of rapid rehousing that we have, what rental assistance budgets that all those programs have, and how many households they are being committed to serve. So we're doing a review of those things to also be tracking that over time to see what impacts there are. There was I want to say back in like early 24, a discussion that we had with the local HUD office around having a tool to project more easily what rental assistance is going to be spent in a program over a year. And that is a really hard thing to find because we don't know from the beginning how much support a household will need when they first connect with rapid rehousing. And it can be a challenge to predict those things. So one of the changes that we're making with the rental subsidy is to kind of spell out based on someone's income at 3-month intervals, the projection of what they will be receiving during their entire enrollment, and to kind of ebb and shift that at 3-month intervals so folks can try and reconcile what their actual costs are. So there's a number of different things that we're wanting to do and noting that need to be tracked as we work to implement a change. And that's part of why we want to get some continual feedback as we do this, that this is a living document and not static, so that if we are seeing you know, really drastic falls in the number of folks enrolled in rapid rehousing, we can pivot. So I appreciate you bringing that up as we think about all the different variables that we need to keep our eyes on when it comes to shifting something.
Great. Is there any other questions for Kelsey or comments? I know we have some people here that's on the cross-cutting policy work group. If they had any, I heard from Elizabeth, and just offering some space for people to ask questions. All right. Sounds like there aren't any. And also just wanted to offer that the written standards does have the opportunity to be reviewed and, you know, revised as yearly as needed. So we can always do that if nothing else. And we also have, I believe we're going to the break now, right? Is that our next agenda item? Great. In that case, we will move into a 5-minute break. And it is 3:07 by my clock. So we'll see you guys about 3:12, 3:13-ish. And when you get back, just go ahead and, you know, come on camera so we know that you were present and we can get started again. Thank you.
All right, everyone, this is Dorsal Plants welcoming you all to gradually come back to the meeting. We're slightly ahead of schedule, so I'll drag my feet a little bit, although I'm sure it'd be nice to get some of those extra minutes in the sunshine, at least, or where I'm at, it's sunny, so I hope it is where you are too. All right. I'm seeing more screens coming on, so we will go ahead and we will, oh, more screens. And here in the chat, so we are ready to go. Awesome. So welcome everyone back to the second half of the meeting. We're really excited. For those of you who were able to participate a couple of weeks ago, we had a wonderful retreat in the month of February where we spent some time talking amongst ourselves. And Kelsey took all of your feedback and your information and everything that we discussed and somehow found a way to take all of that information and discussion and break it up and put it into some of the documents. And so we have a few things that Kelsey will be going over today that will kind of look at the the work plan and kind of our plan over the next year. I do want to just also call out just really quickly, and I apologize I didn't have it in time for the agenda packet, but I did send out a handout for the committees and work groups that are currently in operation here at the COC board. And so I encourage you to take a look at that document. You'll see some of the work groups and committees do have openings in them. If that work group or committee is something that interests you, if you would reach out to Catherine by email, by phone, by text message, however you communicate with Catherine by Friday, it would be wonderful if we could start getting some more people on our work groups and committees as we finalize our 2025 work plan. And so I'll stop rambling at this point, and Kelsey, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dorsum. So I'm going to share a couple of different things visually. One is much easier to digest, and we're going to look at in pockets. And then I will also share what I will be working to send out that's a more overwhelming visual. So wanted to have it in a couple different ways. But let me, again, get my correct screen shared. This is the overwhelming one. Don't look at that one yet. So want to just walk through with you all kind of a COC work plan. We will aim to do this as a quarterly update, a review of kind of work that was done and then work that's to come. So first we will talk about the work that we have completed in Q1. So this is kind of the more digestible version that I will be showing you. This will be looking at all of the kind of active boards and committees in the time period. And then we'll kind of do a recap of what was going on with all those boards and committees. And then I have the upcoming slides will look at what's to come in Q2. So Q1, which is including March, we held the COC virtual convening in January, getting some great feedback around ensuring that these are in-person hybrid spaces moving forward. This was a rescheduled event due to a severe weather incident back in November. The COC board, things that you were working on in the first quarter included the DV CHAP, so this is the DV Coordinated Entry System improvements, a review of the KCRHA annual budget, and then work plan development. February, the work group development, pathways to housing presentation in our planning session, and then March, working on rapid rehousing standards. Our coordinated entry committee, in January, we're working on kind of establishing a kind of solid group vision. In February, wrapped up detailing goals and priority development. And in March, we'll be kind of moving forward in data review for public facing dashboards. Our System Performance Committee, some of the work that was completed in Q1 included the review and approval of the DV CHAP improvements, development of the scope of work for data standards work group and the PIT as well in February. And then in March, working on getting both of those work groups kind of stood up and going. The Youth Action Board, Q1 work included board member development, so bringing on and having a full board of 12 members. They have been doing work on a podcast and newsletter. In February, they also had kind of a retreat and planning session, and then some agenda planning work for the YYA convening in July. In March, we'll be focusing on a presentation on Built for Zero. The COC Charter Work Group was stood up and started in the first quarter. So in January, there was the scope of work development, recruitment that is wrapped up last week. And then this month, we'll be finalizing membership, establishing the cadence, and doing orientation to COC charters. The cross-cutting policy work group was one of our other kind of active and standing work groups. And in January and February, they were reviewing the rapid rehousing standards to do some more detailed review. In February, combined with current rapid rehousing providers for feedback and review as well. And in March, they will begin the review of the COC written standards. The convening work group, this is the other work group that became active in Q1. January, no work was focused on the convening quite yet. February, though, the scope of work and standing up of the work group began, or the scope of work, the standing up happened just today. And work will commence this month with the work group to begin planning for the convening in May. So we will be doing kind of a recap for everyone of, again, quarterly reviews. So that is our recap, and moving in to kind of give a what is the work kind of coming up over the next 3 months. So looking at really focusing on April, May, and June, so Q2. So Q2, and this, I have 2 slides. First are kind of our standing larger committee work groups that are committee and boards that per the charter are kind of our open public meetings. April, and I'll go month by month for these ones. April, the COC board will be called to vote on the rapid rehousing standards. And we're aiming to do a presentation on system performance measures, doing an overview of what those are. Coordinated entry will be working on dashboard development and prioritization review. The System Performance Committee will be working on the PIT work group, as well as receiving an update on how the live inventory is working. Pardon me, I'm a little under the weather, so please bear with me. The Youth Action Board in April will be starting some review of YHDP, so the Youth Homelessness Demonstration projects, and looking at current existing manuals and expectations. One of the goals with the YAB will be to be doing a review of what current standards are for YHDP programs, as called for in kind of our HUD requirements for YHDP. In May, we are looking forward to having our in-person COC convening. This is also when the submission of the 2027 HUD data standards input is due. This is what Bella was talking about regarding feedback to HUD. So that will be due in May. The COC board, we are slating to do a Q1 COC program performance review. So looking at the COC portfolio of programs, how are things going? Where are things happening in the first quarter? And we'll be looking at that as in the first quarter of the grants. COC programs are not all on the same timelines. So these may be a little bit funky with timelines, but we'll be pulling to do a full quarter, 1/4 of all projects. They just might be, some first quarters may be May, June, July, others might be November, December, January. So making sure to kind of note that in that review for you all. There'll also be a system performance measure to talk about system performance measure number 2. And then in May, hoping to do a review of a scope of work for a NOFO work group. While we do not have a full NOFO due this year, there is aim to review the rating criteria in preparation for fiscal year 2020 or 2026 competition. In May, the Coordinated Entry Committee is aiming to finalize dashboard recommendations to get those up and live, as well as continuing work on prioritization and access to coordinated entry. For system performance, we're wanting to aim for May to have a quarterly data quality review. How is data quality in HMIS? What are some improvements to make, etc. And then the Youth Action Board will be focusing on looking at the YHTP programs, their current performance, and spending overview. So similar to the Q1 COC program performance review, it will just be focused on YHTP programs for the Youth Action Board. In June, we are hoping for the COC co-chairs to present to the governing board. There was an ask that there is a quarterly presentation and update that happens. So hoping that there will be one slated for June. The COC board aiming for June to include on the agenda a review of the system performance measure number 3. For the Coordinated Entry Committee, continuing work on prioritization and access, as that will be kind of a bigger project. For system performance, again, looking at the bed and inventory system, redesign and implementation. Was that a typo? I'll confirm if that was what was meant to be here. I'll confirm with Daniel. And then the Youth Action Board, they're going to really be digging into looking at the manual and guidelines for bridge providers, which is a joint component transitional housing rapid rehousing project. So digging into kind of that manual and standards for one of the YHTP projects. And Dorsal, I do note that your hand is raised.
I just wanted to identify that Martha had a question in chat that might be easier to answer.
Great.
Yes, thanks, Dorsal. This is Martha.
Yes, it is Q1 of the fiscal year 23 awards. Whoops. Yeah. As fiscal year 24, none of those have started at this moment in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's helpful to clarify because first, as you stated, for some programs that will mean looking at like February through April data from 2024, so almost a year old. And then other programs, it might be the last 3 months.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And I guess that can be something to get some feedback from you all on if you want to look at the HUD performance period, or if you just want to do a snapshot in time of the first quarter of 2024, how programs were performing kind of outside of HUD performance periods. And happy to get that input from you all too about what makes more sense. Any other questions on the COC board activities, Coordinated Entry Committee, System Performance Committee, Youth Action Board, or kind of planned noted events for Q1 or Q2?
There's a question in the room.
Kelsey, can you say that again? I didn't get it. About what we want to see.
Yes. So to what Martha was stating, the current active grants that we have for COC are fiscal year 23. Those start in 24 or 25, but go through 2025. Some of those grants started in February of 2024 and go through January of 25. Some started in May of 2024. So the question is, for programs, would you want to look at their individual timelines, or for all programs looking at their performance from January through March of 2025. So their current performance versus their funded period performance, or their performance period with HUD.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I'd rather see performance over timelines. Yes.
Any other questions on these 4 boards and committees? All right, I will move us to our work groups. Oh, all right. So these are all of the work groups that will be active during the second quarter. So we have the COC Charter Review Work Group, the Cross-Cutting Policy Work Group, the Convening Work Group, the Data Standards and Metric Development, which is a work group with the System Performance Committee, and then the PIT Planning Work Group, also the work group with the System Performance Committee. So the COC Charter Work Group, really through the full second quarter, we'll be working on the written standards, or the COC Charter, my goodness, pardon me. We'll be looking at charters. So aiming to really do a deep dive into purpose of COC charters, charters in other communities, and then working sessions to make recommended updates and revisions to our COC charter. The cross-cutting policy work group will be doing kind of similar of looking at the COC written standards and just continuing to make revision updates and recommendations. Ultimately, the COC written standards will be, and the charter would be reviewed and voted on by the COC membership. The convening work group will be planning the May convening, and there'll also be a particular focus on support for developing kind of a transportation plan for YYA. This was a kind of noted need for youth and young adults in our community experiencing homelessness as need for transportation support, and hoping that kind of as we are planning this, we can have a model for better work on how we are supporting folks to access physical spaces. So that will be part of the work group plan. The data standards, and this is based on conversations with Daniel and Ramos, who is the staff support for the System Performance Committee on goals for the data standards. In April of course, gathering input for the feedback to HUD, and then in May, prepping that input to make sure it is submitted to HUD in May by the due date. And then there's a recommendation for this group to then shift focus to work on data collection guidelines so that there are local standards around data collection. The PIT planning work group, kind of projecting for April to work on recruitment for that work group. May to begin planning preparation and support in identifying hub sites. That would be work carried out in May and June to ensure identification and regional coverage for the hubs. And Bella, I do see your hand raised.
Thank you for bringing up that it hasn't still been officially voted on with the PIT planning. I'm wondering if any or all the rest of these work groups, are they all already voted in, already stood up, already moving forward, correct? Only the PIT plan?
The convening, cross-cutting policy, and COC charter are voted on and stood up. I have the data standards and metrics as we plan to have those voted on and stood up to be working groups.
Okay, just to clarify. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Any other questions around our planned and active work groups?
Say it again.
Could you tell us what openings, this is Elizabeth, can you tell us what openings there are on the work groups and committees?
Dorsal wonderfully put together a handout for all of you that details those. I don't have that off the top of my head. The ones I do know, that will be actively recruiting for folks are the convening work group, and then once stood up, the data standards and PIT planning. I think there are a couple openings on the cross-cutting policy work group. And then I believe there's a couple openings on the coordinated entry committee and maybe one on the system performance committee. Again, that's just off the top of my head.
You're really good, Kelsey. That was exactly right. I'm looking at the document Dorsal sent out. This is Jaja.
Thank you, Jaja. And Dorsal, I heard you come off.
You got the numbers right.
Oh my gosh. The miracle. And Bella, I do see, do you have your hand raised still?
Yeah, there's a question in the Q&A.
Oh, wonderful. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, I have here, is the COC going to have any input into HUD's request around what we would do if we list federal funding letter that the CEO has put together? Christina, if you are able to come off mute, can you clarify your question? Oh, I think I have to go in and Christina, you should be able to come off of mute now if you're able to clarify your question.
I can text her to see you too.
Thank you so much. Whoops. Oh my goodness. So that's my clean visual for you. The other thing that I am working on is a fuller calendar. So this is an Excel doc that has all boards, committees, and work groups, and a full calendar of projected work. It also puts here at the very beginning the meeting cadence. So for example, we have the COC board meets the first Wednesday of the month. System Performance Committee meets the third Wednesday. And then coordinated entry is the fourth Thursday of the month. So I'm working on getting that noted. This is a bit overwhelming as a document. But I will put it together as kind of a PDF that we can also have posted on the website and sent out to everyone so that there's a bigger view. But again, we will also be doing here that will be posted online. Oh my goodness. The kind of cleaner, more succinct kind of what's coming in the next quarter as well review. So this will be something that we do on a quarterly basis. And I think I saw a hand go up in the room.
Yep. So Christina clarified, HUD has asked COCs across the nation for their contingency plans. What is ours?
We are currently working on that with our leadership. There are some things that are unknown yet, but that is part of what we are doing is an analysis of all federal funding that comes to and is passed through KCRHA. So we have our finance department working on that to look at the dollars, the number of people who would be impacted, the number of units that have been impacted, and working to prepare some information that can be sent to various stakeholders, the city, the county, federal government, state government. So that is what I know now. And we will provide information to you all as we have more solid information. One thing that we are really wanting to be cognizant of, given the current climate, is not being preemptive with information that we are not certain about, given that there are things that kind of are changing a lot. We are also working with providers around ensuring that they are getting invoicing in to make sure folks are getting paid regularly. As you know, we have experienced challenges with federal funding in that regard. But we're kind of doing some things in terms of just KZRHA kind of invoice processing to help improve that so that the cash flow to providers is not impacted. Other questions that folks have? All right, I will stop sharing my screen. And if other questions come up, please let me know. I'll also be looking at the Q&A. Thank you all.
Jaja has a comment.
Oh, yeah, Jaja.
Hi, this is Jaja Floyd. I just want to say, Kelsey, that was a very good presentation. You did a fabulous job with all that information. The last one, I had to get my glasses out, but you did a fantastic job on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is bringing together all of the input from you all, from the COC membership. So mega kudos to all of you for providing the context for me to kind of put it together in a timeline for you.
Bella, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that there's another question in the Q&A. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to try and answer this one very briefly, unless KCRHA staff's gonna jump in, and I don't see where your screen went.
I can provide a little bit of statement on our end. Doris will also welcome you to share from co-chair perspective.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So part of the mission of KCRHA is really grounded in equity, and we do not plan to shift away from that. The piece I think that is important is thinking about any potential impacts there may be and thinking about ways for us to strategize around that, to ensure that the work that we're doing on the ground is anchored in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is the goal. That is what we are here to do. And the rhetoric used, we will be thoughtful about to ensure that it does not steer us away from being diverse in our work, being equitable in our work, being inclusive in our work, and working to be thoughtful and upholding principles of anti-racism.
Thank you, Kelsey. I personally agree with everything you just said. And I think as a co-chair, I think one of the things too is we want to be thoughtful about our actions. There's a flurry of activity and changes that are coming out at the federal level, at the HUD level. It's not clear yet whose direction applies in what clear areas. There's a judicial review process that kind of establishes the extent of the executive branch's authority compared to the legislative branch's authority when it comes to governing the purse strings. The one other thing I would add too is I don't know if I've seen any evidence to support that changing our language currently would change the narrative. It's my understanding that Congress makes the allocation before the review process would begin for our documentations. And so it's not clear to me that, at least at this time, making any changes would have any benefit, whereas standing on the position that we believe that upholding the voices of people with lived experience, that being anti-racist is one of the solutions to ending homelessness, that we need to be smart, we need to be thoughtful, but we also need to adhere to the values that we don't just believe, but we know through our lived and living experience of homelessness are the values that will make system change. And so it's a great question. It's a valuable question. It's a question I think that everyone doing this work is asking. But I think right now it's better to stand for inclusion and diversity, because at the end of the day, that will make our system better. So I hope that answered your question. As always, you're welcome to reach out to myself or Ruby or the KCRHA staff. And yeah. So we have adjusted our agenda, so I will do my best to get us where we need to be. So I believe we are at the point now where we concluded the work plan piece. You didn't need us to vote on anything, right, Kelsey?
Nope, just an overview of what's happened and what's to come.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience. I know you got a lot of feedback and did a lot of editing and refining. The documents looked really great and were really helpful today. So we got a bunch of hands up now. Bella, is your question about the work plan, or is this about the next item on the agenda? Ruby, is your question about the work plan or the next item on the agenda?
Confirmed it's the next item of the agenda that I would like to speak to.
Do you want to just facilitate it?
Oh, sure, why not? That works. Thanks, Dorsal, for handing this over to me. I just wanted to say that we do have a scope of work, or a good overview of what this work plan, or what this subcommittee will be doing. However, as we've been doing that in real time, I haven't quite finished that particular portion of it, but I will be sending it out. I don't want to take the shine away from Bella if they wanted to give the overview, but I could also read the scope out whenever we're ready to do that, of the one that she provided. So Bella, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then we can go back to reading the scope.
Okay, thanks, Ruby. Just to let public attendees know, there are further answers to questions that were directed more to the Systems Performance Committee. So please check those. That was why I had my hand up first, Dorsal. And Ruby, did you want me? This is the time to be talking about the point in time count subcommittee, correct? Okay. So yes, I did forward over kind of a rough draft of a scope of work. Mind you, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. In fact, there is a point in time count methodology meeting and full review of the last point in time count that was done with the UW team. That is going to take place soon. And so there's a lot more data, a lot more understanding around this that's going to move forward before this subcommittee could possibly, even be enacted or for membership, to be moved forward. So we'll have even more data, for a proposed scope. But let me pull up. Sorry, I apologize. I didn't have that right off.
I have it pulled up. If you wanted me
Okay.
to just read it out, would that be helpful?
Yeah. Thank you.
And again, we will send this out in a text form. But basically the scope it looks like, and thank you for providing this, Bella, is preparation and planning. So this is what the methodology you're speaking to, and adaptation. So the UW 2024 methodology, accuracy and participant privacy, and ensuring HUD compliance. It's also going to include stakeholder engagement, which is local governments, nonprofits, you know that those people, the stakeholders. We got volunteer recruitment and training, develop and conduct a comprehensive training program for volunteers that covers safety protocols, data collection tools, and sensitivity training regarding the homeless populations. Data collection is the next section on this, and that's going to be the sheltered and unsheltered counts. Coordinate with local shelters, deploy field teams, transitional housing, and other facilities to collect data using standardized forms and digital entry methods, which we saw a lot of that good work with Owen last year, who's a KCRHA staff member. Quality control measures is going to look at the implement spot checks and data verification processes to uphold data integrity, which is good. Like to see that. Data analysis and reporting, data compilation, aggregate collected data into, or aggregate collected data into central database for analysis. We're also going to do statistical analysis. And I say we as the figuratively we. Utilize statistical tools to identify demographic and geographic trends, comparing prior counts to discern patterns. The last bullet point on this section of data analysis and reporting is report generation. Produce a comprehensive report with the findings of the PIT, point in time count, offering insights and recommendations for policy and service enhancements. And then there's the post-count activities, which is a debriefing session, advocacy and awareness, and continued monitoring. I just also wanted to offer the reason that we're doing this is the work is the point in time count is a required portion of the COC planning by the program definition. So it has, if you want to look that up, we do have the Code of Federal Regulation number right here. It's 24.578.7, shows the planning and conducting at least biennially, which means every 2 years for unsheltered, and then yearly for sheltered, a point in time count of people experiencing homelessness within the geographic area, that meets the following requirements. So this is the unsheltered count looks at people who are living in a place not designated or not designed or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation for humans. So that's kind of the literal homeless definition. Then we have the sheltered count, which is persons living in emergency shelters and transitional housing projects, and those must be counted as sheltered. So they take those two numbers, and that's kind of where we see the unsheltered and the sheltered count that we get reported on with Owen last year, and I think we've seen other reports of it as well. We have a unique methodology here, and that's kind of what I think Bella was speaking to, refining. Yeah.
Can I add a couple things, Ruby?
Take her over.
Thanks. So I'm relatively new to a lot of this, as most people have kind of garnered by this point, but I have a background in data analysis and statistical reporting, and do this work often. And so I'm very much looking forward to looking at the methodology. Now, mind you, we have shifted our requirements and our timelines pretty significantly in the last year, because these were annual requirements for HUD and now they're biannual. So we have most people would think that you have more time to do something, but the actuality is that the funding and the way that the funding is flowing through a biannual review and reporting can actually set back processes for funding or for opportunities sometimes. And so I want to make sure that that's brought to the foreground, that this subcommittee is very important, because the work that we do is actually setting the scope for the future of what funding can funnel to this area or could, be impacted in some way. And also, just to let everybody know, this usually does actually start by this next fall. fall, this work, because next year is going to be when we do have to perform this work anyways. So we're really asking for the subcommittee to be set up, to be stood up months ahead of time so that we can get a head start on this. And we come to the table even more better prepared, because the methodology that we have right now, this is the first iteration that we've had with it. We have many things to be able to review and receive information back from the community about. And it's just being that many months ahead, 4 or 5 months ahead from when we would normally start this work, is really important, because of how much further in time next year will set the funding for what comes through to us. And the methodology is not being applied to everything right now. So if there are changes, if there are items that need to be addressed, again, having that extra time to be able to really start getting into this work well ahead of how we're going to present it and what we end up with as data into early next year, this time next year, is just that much more important, and it puts us that much further ahead. So anyways.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really important to get this done. So let's go ahead and move, or actually what I need to hear is there anybody entertaining a motion to, again, approve and stand up this point in time count subcommittee under the System Performance Committee? Again, we don't usually like to do it like this, but thank you for pushing that through. So is there anybody willing to entertain that motion?
I'd hate to be the first person to ask, but can I move to motion for this point in time count subcommittee to be voted on?
You absolutely can.
This is Jaja Floyd. I'll second it.
Great, thank you, Jaja. So we got Bella on the motion and Jaja on the second. Let's
point of order. Technically, Christina seconded before Jaja. She just did it via text.
Clarification. Perfect. Awesome. And then so that's a third from Jaja. Great. So is there any other discussion questions for Bella? Anything like that?
Okay. This is Amy Thomas. I'd like to make a comment. I don't know how appropriate this is, but I just want to say again, not that everyone on the board isn't fantastic, but Bella, you're really shining. I remember when I first met you, everyone's new to me. And I remember you discussing your background, and it clearly shows that you've been a big benefit. And so it's really great to have you on the team, and just thank you for all your hard work.
Second that. Good job.
Very kind. Just wait. I just started getting my.
We're all going to be soaked. She's just getting her feet wet. We're all going to be soaked. I love it. That's great. And I love to see that. That's great. Thank you, Amy, for raising that up. Any other questions, comments for Bella or the system, the point time count subcommittee? All right, let's move into, is everyone, would we be okay to do a voice vote on this one, or is this a roll call situation, perhaps a roll call situation for the work group? Dorsal, I'm leaning on you for that answer.
I mean, in our bylaws, you could do it either way. You might just do roll call just because it'd be fast at this point.
Yeah. All right, let's do a quick roll call vote. Catherine, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Dr. Sam. I'll look for a text from Dr. Sam. Tamara Bauman.
Aye.
Jaja Floyd.
Yes.
Bella Irons.
Yes.
Amaya Lenore.
Yes.
Elizabeth Moken. Yes. Dorsal Plants.
Yes.
Ruby Romero.
Yes.
Martha Sasarosi.
Yes.
And Christina just texted me yes. Victor Liu.
Yes.
Amy Thomas.
Yes.
We have 11 yeses. Passed.
Yes.
Almost.
Kelsey, I see Kelsey's hand.
Just, I wanted to share that we are working on getting all the board and committee applications into one form. And we'll be working to get that posted online by next week. So that will include those who are interested in being on both the convening work group as well as the PIT planning work group. So all of that will be worked on to be active, hopefully by mid next week. And we'll send out a larger email to both the full board and the COC membership when that is up on our website and live and ready for folks.
Yay, that's exciting. Cool. Well, thanks for standing up that last minute, guys. I really do appreciate that adjustment. I wanted to bring a point of clarification as well with the, oh wait, never mind. I clarified it myself. We're good. Did you want to handle this or move into the community updates portion really quick before we log off?
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick things. Just really quickly want to open up the floor. We've got about a minute left. Are there any announcements for the good of the order from the board members? All right, seeing none, I'm going to make mine real quick so we can get out in that sunshine. So I just want to share that our next regular meeting will be April 2nd at 2 p.m. And then I also do want to share that, so March 20th at the governing board, Ruby and I will be doing a presentation basically with Kelsey's support on the COC 101 and just kind of introducing the COC board and our work to the governing board. If you are available, we would love to have you there in attendance. And if you're not available, Ruby and I are still very much working on creating opportunities for one-on-one meetings with governing board members and elected officials to just really try and raise awareness about the work that everyone is doing here. I mean, you saw all the work that Kelsey had for us in quarter two, but all the work we finished in quarter one. So giving you a chance to share all that good work and your good knowledge and expertise. I think that's all the announcements I had, unless you got any. Ruby?
Yeah, I had one more. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but I wanted to say thanks to Marvin, our new co-chair of the System Performance Committee, and also our good friend. He was able to provide I'm not sure if it's the most recent, but I wanted to uphold a long-standing tradition of just holding some space for the people that have died outside, experiencing homelessness. And so they did a vigil February for 25 homeless people that died outside at the city hall steps, 4th and James. And they do that regularly, and I try to hold that space because it's real out there. So anyway, thank you guys. Dorsal.
And on that solemn, somber note that reminds us why we spend 2 hours a month in this meeting, along with plenty of hours outside of this meeting doing this good work, we will adjourn the meeting at 4:01 p.m. Please take care of yourselves in these unique times, and remember the work you do is making a difference, even if you don't see it in that exact moment. Thank you.
Thank you. See you all next month.
Well, people have been shoveling applications for different committees over the last 8, 9 months.